guys, it's Sophie. So I'm going to be doing the third of my MB16 2016 book reviews, and this one is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. Eileen is set in an unnamed coastal New England town in the early 1960s, and we follow Eileen, which seems relatively self-evident from the title, who is a very unpleasant, self-centred young woman. But she does have her reasons for that, I think. So we'll just go over the plot quickly for you, and then I'll go into what I liked and didn't like. So Eileen lives with her father, who is a very dependent alcoholic. He's got to that stage of illness with alcoholism where his body wouldn't take it if he stopped drinking alcohol, so it's past the point of sort of any real chance of recovery. He is having sort of hallucinations and delusions, and generally needs quite a lot of care. So Eileen is the primary carer in that relationship. Her mother is out of the picture. She does have a sister, but she similarly isn't in the life of her father, and so Eileen really is the only person who interacts with him and looks after him in any real way. For the majority of the time that seems to be just fetching him more gin and leaving himself to sort of fend in the house when she's not there. She does work as well. She works in a young boys' prison nearby as a sort of admin assistant, so she processes the intake of the prisoners and sort of looks after the filing and all of those sorts of things as well. Her life is very dull, it's very grey, and I think it's very depressing. And as the reader, that does feel depressing too, because her father's house where she lives, she's only 24, so she's still living with her father in this town, is just in squalor, as you would expect. It's an alcoholic's house, and the place she works is obviously unpleasant, and the women she works with in the office with her aren't particularly kind to her or friendly to her, and she sort of builds her life around these two things. There's an awful lot else she does. The only thing she does to sort of give herself any kind of entertainment is she's sort of in lust with this man called Randy, a guard who works at the prison, and she spends time fantasising about him and her and what it might be like to be with someone. Eileen's very emotionally stunted. She hasn't really ever had any real friendship, she's never had a relationship, and a lot of her life and her thoughts are centred around herself, because she's never really grown out of that childhood habit of thinking the world revolves around one person. She's also a very unreliable narrator, so while she goes through these periods of disliking herself quite intensely, she always has a sort of self-serving theme running through what she's doing, I think. Even when we look back on her life, so there are parts of the story where sort of older, grown-up Eileen looks back on what she's done as a young woman. So if younger Eileen was struggling with understanding something to do with men, older Eileen might say, oh well, of course I've slept with hundreds of men now, all different kinds of men. And it just feels a bit like a show, it feels a little bit like a sham. And I think in her life she does that to some extent. It's about the face of what she puts forward, although the face isn't anything gleaming, it's just something that gets her through her days. And out of all this doom and gloom comes this character called Rebecca, who is, or seems to Eileen to be, very sophisticated and wildly and intelligent and beautiful. And whilst all the other characters, if their clothes are mentioned at all, they aren't really noted in sort of necessarily noted in colours, Rebecca comes in sort of violets and pinks and reds, and is really just a sort of focusing light in the centre of Eileen's world. Unfortunately, this isn't the kind of book where you're going to get a lovely resolution where she is friends or whatever with Rebecca and it develops into, you know, a happy ending. But I'm not going to go into too much more because I don't really think you need to. Okay, and on to my thoughts. I think I really believed in Eileen. While she's very unreliable and she's living this really horrid life, and the novel's quite gritty and it will not shy away from showing you the baser aspects of her life, I felt as though she was real to me, and sort of her life and her journey and her experience of the world did feel really realistic, and I really liked that, and to be honest, that was one of the reasons why I gave the book as high a rating as I did. I ended up giving it 4 or 5 stars because I think her character, at least in the first sort of 2/3 of the book, was terribly believable. I think the plot was quite slow to start. There's an awful lot of build-up and not a lot of sort of pop afterwards. I would have liked to have seen us having a little bit more time to play with the events that unfold as the story goes on, rather than just focusing on the build-up so much, though it did give me a really good picture, and as I say, it did make me feel as though it was very real. I just think it was kind of unbalanced as a book in that the main events felt a little rushed to me. It did mean I read the very last bit of the book very quickly, because there was quite a lot of tension sort of built up throughout the book. I think that the ending, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I think the ending potentially was out of character for her, and I think that it could be seen as a sort of problem with the book, that it was something that was different to the way she would have acted before. I didn't think that so much, though I definitely could see that if people did think that, what their reasoning would be. I very much take it as the fact that she is so unreliable, and that anything that she's reporting about her history probably shouldn't be taken literally. And I don't know, because I'd had this sense the whole way through the book of her being so focused on putting this version of herself forward, I think it actually didn't jar with me particularly, although I don't know, because maybe that's giving the author too much credit, I'm not sure, and I can completely understand why the people thought that. I'd say the book overall was somewhere between 3 and 4 stars for me, and we'll see how I go with that. I gave it 4 to sort of be relatively generous for now, and I'll re-rank as I always do as we go on throughout the year, and maybe it will drop down to 3, but for now I think it was better than an okay book. Okay, so before I go, I just wanted to mention 2 things to be aware of. The first of which is that the book does deal with disordered eating in some ways. It's not fully sort of gone into as a theme, but it is there, so just be aware of that. And also, fairly self-evidently, but the theme of alcoholism and issues with alcohol abuse also go through. Sorry for the slight angle change, my camera literally just died as I was about to wrap up. So, in summary, I think that the book is disturbing, I think it's dark, and I think it is quite original actually, in terms of story, but I don't think it necessarily should win. I still think I prefer Work Like Any Other over this one, though I did enjoy this one. I can see where the issues in the plot come up for some people, but I found in reading them I didn't automatically conclude the same thing as other people had. That may be my own personal reading as opposed to anything else, but there it is. I hope that you're all well. I hope I've managed to express myself in some kind of coherent fashion, because my brain is not woken up yet and I quite literally don't know what I've just said to you all. Anyway, let me know if you're interested in reading this one, or if you're not interested in reading this one, and I'm probably going to be starting Hot Milk next. Alright, I'll see you soon. Bye bye. So today I'm going to be doing the second of my Man Booker 2016 reviews, and that one is Serious Sweet by A.L. Kennedy.